Hey everyone, Theo here. Today I'm reviewing the Veikk Studio VK2200 Pro pen display. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by the company. The official retail price is US $470, and at the time of this review, Amazon has an $80 coupon off the retail price, so you can get this 21.5-inch pen display for less than $400. Now this review is going to be quite long because it's very detailed. If you want to save time, you can check out the text review that I have already written. The link is in the video description below, or use the timestamps provided to jump to different sections of this video. Just to give you the bottom line up front, this is the upgraded model from VK2200, which was released almost 2 years ago. And there are several upgrades, so now it has more physical shortcut buttons. There are 8 and there are 2 control dials. The pen is not powered by battery anymore, so no charging is required. 2 pens are included. There is better color accuracy, up to 95% AdobeRGB coverage, and there is USB-C to USB-C connection, and the overall drawing performance is fantastic. You can get really good line quality with the pen because it's a very sensitive pen and it's very accurate, so the overall drawing experience is very positive. There are some downsides. The anti-glare of the matte textured screen protector is a bit aggressive for my personal liking. So it introduces slight grain to the image quality, so it affects image quality. But that's the compromise you get if you want a textured drawing surface versus image quality. The second downside may be specific to this review unit I have, and that is when I move the image around very quickly, I can see ghosting issues. And Veikk said this is a hardware problem, and if you experience the same issue, you can get a replacement. The third downside is with the Windows driver. When you're using this pen display in extended desktop mode or the dual display mode, Photoshop does not work. The pen does not work with Photoshop. So as long as you are just using the pen display alone as the only display, Photoshop will work fine. There are no major issues with the Mac OS driver except Adobe Illustrator. On Mac OS, the pressure doesn't work there. Alright, let's see what's included in this huge box. There's a microfiber cleaning cloth, 1 artist glove, a quick start guide, a card to show you where to download the driver, a power cable, a power adapter, USB Type-A to USB Type-C cable, USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable, full-size HDMI to full-size HDMI cable, replacement nibs and a nib remover, a pen stand with replacement nibs inside, 2 pens and 2 cases for the pens. This pen case or pouch is soft and it looks like it's made of felt. It's quite thick and offers good protection for the pen. There are 8 more replacement nibs in the pen stand, and this stand allows you to put the pen vertically. This pen has improved over the previous model. There is no battery inside, so no charging is required, unlike the previous pen which requires charging. The grip is matte textured and it's not made of rubber, so it's not going to collect dust. There are 2 side buttons with good clicking feedback. The pen supports tilt and slightly over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. There is slight movement with the pen tip. This is a lightweight and comfortable pen to hold. This is the back of the pen display. There are 4 rubber feet at the back. This part here is adjustable, so you can pull the latch up to adjust the angle of the pen display. This part shouldn't move when the pen display is on the table. When you're facing the pen display, the power buttons and the OSD buttons are on the right side behind the pen display. The stand is removable with a screwdriver, so this pen display can be VESA mounted. The VESA dimensions are 10 by 10 centimeters. For left-handed users, you can rotate the stand behind 180 degrees so that the shortcut buttons are on the right side. The rubber feet have very good grip on the table, and this is very stable because the pen display is quite heavy. So this is the vertical deployment, but it's not perfectly vertical, it's almost vertical. You can use the latch to adjust the angle very easily. You probably don't want to go all the way down because the 2 feet here are no longer in contact with the table. So it's actually the metal that is touching the table. This is a much better angle to work with. The ports are located on the right side of the pen display. The ports are for full-size HDMI, power, and USB Type-C. This pen display is quite slim. It's slightly thicker than the thickest part of the pen. This is how the pen display looks when you first take it out of the box. There is a protective plastic film on the surface which you have to peel off. So let's just peel this off. The screen is matte textured. On this review unit that I have here, there is some issue with the screen lamination at the bottom left corner. Thankfully, it's not visible when the display is powered on. I did not find any dead pixels on this unit, and I did not find any dead pixel policy on Veik's website. Anyway, most pen display manufacturers don't have dead pixels policy. That's the power light indicator. Thankfully, there is enough space for me to have my finger go underneath to reach the OSD buttons behind. I've just connected the pen display to my Mac using a USB-C cable. If you are using USB-C to USB-C connection, you are going to have 2 cables coming out of the pen display, the power cable and the USB-C cable. If you are using the HDMI cable, there will be 3 cables coming out of the pen display, the power cable, the HDMI cable, and the USB cable. The colors on this pen display look fantastic out of the box. I have already color calibrated the pen display using my Spider 5 Pro color calibrator. I measured color support for 99% sRGB, 90% NTSC, 95% AdobeRGB, and 91% P3. This pen display has good color accuracy. 95% coverage for AdobeRGB is really good. I measured a maximum brightness of 193 nits, which is sufficient for use in a bright room environment. I'm currently running the pen display at 75% brightness. So this is the anti-glare of the matte textured surface. This is not a matte screen protector. This is matte textured glass, so it's not going to scratch. I find the anti-glare on the matte textured screen to be quite aggressive. So as long as you don't have any reflections of the surface, you're going to get the best image quality. But when you have reflections, you can see the matte texture actually creates this white haze that affects the colors. Another thing with this display is viewing angles. So if you view your display from certain angles, the colors are lighter. Notice the skin tone, it's lighter, but when you view it from the front, it's actually darker, or the colors are richer. That could also be due to the matte textured surface. I also found out there is ghosting effect with this display. So pay attention as I move the image around. And this can also happen when you're zooming in and out. So I'm just going to move this around. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'm not sure if my camera can actually capture it, but I can see ghosting effect. It doesn't affect my work, but this is something you will definitely notice if you move your image around or zoom in and out. The display is 21.5 inches in size, and the resolution is 1080p, so there will be noticeable pixelation. And due to the matte textured surface, there is some graininess to the image quality. There is always a compromise when it comes to the texture of the drawing surface versus the image quality, because with more texture, it's going to introduce more grain. With less texture, the image quality is better. The graininess and the 1080p resolution make the UI elements look slightly fuzzy. To me, it's not a big deal. However, there are people who prefer their displays to be sharper, but those sharper displays are also more expensive. 21.5 inches is a good size to work with. This is quite spacious, and this is how big the pen display is compared to A4 size paper. So I can almost fit two pieces of A4 size paper side by side. With the palettes on the left and right side, I can still get an A4 size canvas to work with. I can get more space if I hide the dog below. The display is laminated, so there is almost no gap between the line and the pen tip. Cursor tracking seems to be quite accurate. There seems to be no offset to the cursor regardless of how you hold the pen or the angle of the pen. And cursor tracking is quite accurate even at the extreme edges. If you do experience cursor offset with the pen, you can use the driver to calibrate the pen display to match the cursor to the tip of the pen. These are the settings you can change with the OSD: brightness, contrast, gamma, color temperature, and that's pretty much it. And now let's see what the driver can do. There are drivers for macOS, Windows, and Linux. This is the macOS driver, and it's installed within the system preferences. So this is where you can customize the side buttons of the pen and adjust the pressure sensitivity curve. There are 3 points for you to move. And for the side button here, I like to change it to monitor switch because I'm using a laptop together with this pen display. So having monitor switch allows me to move the cursor from this display to the other display, and it works quite well. Under mapping, this is where you can calibrate the display if for some reason the cursor is not directly beneath the pen tip. And if you are a left-handed user, you can choose to set the orientation 180 degrees. And remember, you can remove the feet behind or the stand behind and rotate it 180 degrees as well, so that the shortcut buttons are on the right side. And here you can customize the 8 physical shortcut buttons on the side. You can also customize the dials. You can customize up to 4 functions for the dial, and use the button in the middle of the dial to switch between the 4 functions. Now all the keyboard shortcuts, the shortcut keys, they work well. So you can set your own keyboard shortcuts. And yeah, so there are some pre-programmed shortcuts, but it's just a handful of them. It doesn't seem like there are shortcuts for media control, such as playback, stop, or adjusting volume. I discovered 2 issues with Adobe Photoshop on Windows with this driver. The first issue is I wasn't able to get pressure sensitivity to work by default. Right now, pressure works because I have already done the troubleshooting, and let me show you what I did. So if pressure does not work, you have to go into the Windows driver and look for Windows Ink. Just toggle this on or off and see if you can get pressure to work. If you still cannot get pressure to work with Windows Ink, you can try this second option, which is to create a text file with some settings and save that text file into a Photoshop folder. All the steps are documented here. I will put the link to where you can find this solution in the video description below. It's step by step, so just download the text file provided and save it into that Photoshop folder. Hopefully those 2 fixes or solutions will get pressure to work, and now it's working fine. The second glitch I experienced with Photoshop on Windows is I cannot get Photoshop to work properly when using the pen display in extended desktop mode, in dual display mode. So let me show you the problem. When I have the pen on the pen display, there is noticeable cursor offset. The cursor is actually somewhere around there when my pen is here. So when I draw, there is another problem. You can see it draws a straight line from the cursor to the pen tip. That cursor offset problem doesn't happen with other software when using extended desktop mode with Windows. So this is Mediabank Paint Pro, and it works just fine with pressure and accurate cursor tracking. So if you want Photoshop to work properly, you have to turn off the other display and use the pen display as your main and only display. So now there is no cursor offset issue. This is the line quality test. Initial activation force is minimal. I can draw thin lines very easily by applying no pressure at all. As long as the pen tip is touching the display, you can get a really thin line. So this is the line transition from thin to thick. The pen is very sensitive, so I can draw thick lines and have the lines go back to being really thin very easily. Let's see if we can maintain consistent width for the line while applying consistent pressure. And it seems like I can do so. I can draw dots easily by just tapping on the display. And lastly, the strokes seem to taper quite nicely, so you can use this for cross-hatching, no problem. This is Krita on macOS, and I can see the cursor is able to follow the direction of the pen, and tilt works right up to the edge. Tilt works fine. Tilt works as well for Photoshop on macOS. With Krita on Windows, the tilt brush cursor doesn't seem to follow the direction of the pen, but tilt still works. Once you place the brush stroke down, the cursor will follow the direction of the pen. With Adobe Illustrator on macOS, I wasn't able to get pressure to work because the pressure setting here is grayed out. However, pressure does work alright with Adobe Illustrator on Windows. Let's talk about the drawing experience while I make a quick sketch. The pen is very sensitive, so it's very enjoyable to draw with this pen. But more importantly, the pen is accurate. So the lines, they always come out the way I expect them to. There are no surprises. I want to use finger gestures, but I can't because this is not a touch screen. So I can draw thin lines really easily. Let me just zoom in closer to add some thin lines here. Let's have some really thick lines coming up from here. The performance is very consistent and predictable, and that is what you want when it comes to using any tool for drawing. You don't want any surprises when you're drawing. The surface is very nice to draw on. I really like the matte textured surface. And this matte textured surface makes it easier for your hands to glide around on the surface. If you have sweaty palms, you may want to use the included artist glove. Okay, maybe let's have some hatching lines here. There is no eraser on the pen, so to erase you will have to use your keyboard shortcuts or the shortcut buttons by the side. I actually prefer to use my keyboard for all the keyboard shortcuts. But the buttons on the side, they do work fine. I really like the initial activation force of this pen. It's so easy to draw these very faint light lines. The pen is definitely, the pen and the pen display is definitely suitable for creating professional art. This very spacious canvas that you get here is not very different compared to drawing on A4 size paper. Actually, this is bigger than A4 because it's taller. My overall drawing experience on this pen display is quite positive. As for the ghosting issues, if I make sudden movements like this, I can see the ghosting effect. I contacted Veikk regarding this issue and they said if you experience the ghosting effect, you can exchange the display because this is a hardware problem and the display should not behave like this. Let's add some shadows. I don't have any issues with latency because when I'm drawing, I'm just drawing at my typical usual speed. I'm not drawing that fast. I'm not drawing so fast that latency becomes a problem. So even here, when I'm sketching like really fast, I don't have issues with the latency. Alright, just need to add some, and now I just need to add some shadows. Okay, so this is the quick sketch that I've drawn. Let's take a closer look. So I can draw thin lines very easily, and the lines, they can taper quite nicely. So when I'm drawing, I'm not really thinking about the pen or the pen display because I mean, you don't want to think about your tools and how your tools are affecting your work when you're drawing. You just want to think about your drawing. So because the pen display and the pen works well, you don't really have to think about your tools, which is great. Is this worth the money? For US $470, the pricing is quite competitive to pen displays from other brands, and you can find this cheaper on Amazon. So for a pen display at this size with good drawing performance and good color accuracy, I would say it's kind of worth the money, but you can decide based on the findings that I have presented. And if you are interested to get this pen display, consider using the affiliate links that I have for you. I earn some commission through each purchase at no extra cost to you, and it helps support my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. See you guys again. Bye.